Hey, it's Grant here. Welcome to the Prevention is Cure podcast. Today I was with Marcel Hoff, and you'll recognise that name, the Hoff name. He's the brother of Wim Hoff, the Iceman, and Marcel and Wim have together been on this journey of breath, temperature, hormesis, bodily function and well-being for quite a while. I actually initially hoped with this podcast that we could get more into the science of the whole thing, because I think that's the most interesting part, at least to me, is that age-old practices now are coming together with modern science and showing us this science of hormesis that, as Nietzsche said a couple of centuries ago, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, but actually the biological version of that hormesis, that small stressors with amounts of adaptation are what build our biology. We're both constantly adapting to be stronger and better versions of ourselves with stress, or actually without stress we don't allocate resources to those things and we de-evolve as well. So there's sort of the anti-hormetic effect of doing nothing or lounging around, being in your comfort zone the whole time. These are important concepts in all of biology, and that's why I've been working diligently on my new book, Choose Your Hard, over the last year or two, to bring together in a readable way all that research and practice, that whatever way you look at it, being sick, overweight and having difficulty moving around, not being the best version of yourself is hard work. And the chronic disease and whatnot that ensues from that is also very hard. Equally, the path to having a good life is also extremely hard, especially in today's pathological environment, that we need to sort of choose which one of those paths. All paths in life are hard, and that realisation is probably the only way that we can actually manage a good life. Of course, that hasn't been the case in all of human history. Life was just hard because it was hard, and then those Paleolithic ancestors had this sort of match of their biology to their environment. Now we've just got an extreme mismatch. Anyway, back to Marcel Hoff. It was actually pretty interesting. It really gets into the well-being. I thought he was a little bit woo-woo, but the rest of the Precure team actually felt that was pretty valuable, so have a good listen. Before we do that, let's just remind ourselves of some of the key biological facts here. The first is you can control your nervous system very easily by breathing. So the autonomic nervous system, which we previously thought of as, I guess, the automatic nervous system, that it responds below conscious thought, which it does, with the fight or flight or the rest and digest type activities, is also completely controllable, mainly through breath. So you might think about three gears in that. That, for me, the gentle in, hold, out breath, preferably in through the nose, maybe out through the nose or out through the mouth. That gear dials up the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're resting and digesting. It's impossible under those types of breathing conditions to actually get the sympathetic or the fight or flight system going. So it's a very easy technique to calm down and chill out. That's gear one, and you can be doing that sitting down all the time, just exclusive nose breathing if you like. You can even do that at easy exercise levels. Gear two, in the nose and probably a little bit more rapidly out the mouth. That's just you sort of moving around, gentle exercise, moderate exercise type activity, and then the in and out of the mouth, the sort of hyperventilation type activity. That'll serve you when you're exercising hard, but it also dials up the sympathetic nervous system. It really activates you and gets the adrenaline and cortisol going, and people think of that as being a bad thing, but it could be a great thing. Great technique if you're driving and you're starting to feel sleepy, as you do some hyperventilation and it brings you up, or you really need to get yourself up for an event and you're feeling very lethargic, then that might be a great activity. So that's the first thing we should know about breathing. And I think the Hoffs have really combined that with temperature work, especially cold immersion. And that's a good little way of doing things, because when you jump into cold water, no one looks at that cold water and thinks, gosh, this will be fun. They think, oh Lord, here we go, this is going to be brutal, and it is. So we have a nervous system response that's unavoidable. We get in very cold water. The sympathetic nervous system is activated. And learning how to control and manage that with breath really is a gateway to controlling the nervous system. It's a nice little combination to do that. They use the long breath holding and the hyperventilation, which frankly I've thought of as a bit of a party trick for some time. Yet there is one randomised trial where the Hoffs were involved, where they managed to somehow convince an ethics committee that it was okay to inject people with a endotoxin that made people very ill. And they did that as a randomised trial. People either did some hyperventilation, hyped themselves up, which activates the immune system by rapid, breathing in and out of the mouth and blowing off the CO2. And another group that just got the endotoxin without such an intervention. And virtually all of that control group got the sickness, and most of the hyperventilation group who activated their immune system like that didn't get it. So there's some real benefits beyond just breath holding time, which I think you need to be careful about. And Wim Hof's had a bit of criticism for that recently, some deaths underwater breath holding and so forth. Nonetheless, there's a really good idea to, maybe when you're getting a bit sick, to try some of these hyperventilation techniques. I'm not sure we've refined that and we know how to do that properly yet, but that idea is really an interesting one. We don't talk much about heat, but I think heat is a little bit more gentle but equally hormetic, and especially heat following exercise sessions. I've got a sauna at home, and it's something I'm pretty big on, is take an exercise session, put the sauna on while you're doing it so it heats up, and then go there for the last half hour afterwards, and you get some additional fitness benefits without too much physical effort, and you certainly sleep well that night. Okay, that's my little bit for now. Without further ado, enjoy this podcast with Marcel Hoff. So today, Marcel, I'd just like to spend the time we've got talking a little bit about breathwork, a bit about cold, a bit about the combination.
Yeah.
I'm also really interested in some of your view around the science on this. I'm obviously practiced this myself. I've got my chest freezer under the house. I've done some breathwork this morning.
Yeah.
It's an important part of my life, but I find that the science part of it, I've got quite a few questions around the combination of the, managing both sides of the nervous system.
Yeah.
I've never really fully understood that with your method. So it'd be good to explore some of that. So I guess why don't we even start? How does one even get into this to become a world name in a combination of what is actually it's essentially an ancient practice, right?
Yeah.
But you guys have become at the front of it.
Yeah. My brother Wim was like 18 or 19 and I was 13, 14. There's 6 years of difference. And it was kind of exploring breath work, exploring the cold, exploring all kinds of exercise to come in the flow. And during that whole exploration, just in 2012, finally, science came in. And then it became widespread because more and more science showed all the benefits of the cold and of the breath work. So the combination became like now doing people worldwide this stuff, and finally becoming more like normal or regular, like for companies and for working together, for more energy, a better focus, but at the same time feeling better. So all these natural drugs, dopamine, serotonin, and noradrenaline, they're all elevated. And it's a beautiful thing, but we knew already from experience, it feels well. It's simple. It's about the experience, and everybody, you can talk a lot about all the effects, and more science is coming in. I just talked yesterday to Wim, just a little update. And more science comes in with all the benefits on health and also on recovery. So there is so much going on. He's now busy with 8 or 9 different examinations. research with the University of I think somewhere in the States, 2 or 3 new, all about recovery, and another about how the cannabinoids. How do you say it in? Cannabinoids. They showed also that it's working better after doing some breathing exercise for 25 to 50%. They can show that directly. So there's so much going on. Another little research was pretty recent, he said, like 52 people who became voluntarily drunk to see how the effects were after recovery, doing nothing, and after recovery doing breathwork and cold. And just in 1.5 hours, almost all the negative effects of the hangover will disappear.
Oh, is that right? That's beautiful. I'm loving that. That's yeah. So I think one of the most famous studies is the one where, and it always strikes me as a researcher myself that getting this past the ethics committee was a hard thing, when they injected people with the endotoxin.
Yeah.
And then they undertook some breathing exercises.
Yeah, in 2012 they did this research, I think, with 12 people. And with the 2 groups, one group was not. They were all injected with the E. coli bacteria, and 12 people were trained, and 12 people were not trained. So 12 people trained with breathwork, cold. I don't know if it was for 5 or 10 days, but after the 5 or 10 days, their after effects were almost none. And in comparison with the group who didn't train, they had the flu-like symptoms. They had to throw up. They had to stay in bed. The energy was very low. So all these symptoms you have after taking this E. coli bacteria, you get if you don't do anything. But after the breathwork and the cold, there were almost none, zero effects. So finally, they showed that in a short time you can how do you say it? Enhance your immune system enormously. So that's against all kinds of bacteria, viruses, and so on, just in a short time. So you can strengthen that in such a short time. Now and now more is shown that it has not only effects physically, but more and more also mentally on the dopamine, serotonin, and just this little exercise, this little research I told you about 52 people recovering faster. So it's in all kinds of how do you say, levels, physically, mentally, and finally, for me, spirituality is just getting back to the feeling with you and the rest of around you. So for me, the connection with life itself becomes stronger. So that is another part. I'm busy also with the consciousness that Joe Dispenza talking about. Meditation, all that stuff. I want to bring that all together. So the scientific part, physical, mental recovery, but also the spiritual part. But now the spiritual part becomes science also, because you can show how thoughts, how meditation, how intention has influence on the physical body and the mental body. So if you bring that all together, you have a whole system. And that's my focus more and more.
I suppose that's one of the reasons that you think about this, Marcel, around the ancient practices of breath and cold and other hard activities is really a spiritual one primarily. I mean, that's how this evolved, right, as a spiritual practice.
Yeah, I think and I want to rephrase it. It was a spiritual practice. Oh, I'm still looks. I'm not moving now, but it's okay. It was a spiritual practice, but now we have to reframe it, because the spirituality you can now show, because you can show how thoughts also on water, or how prayer also on water, on the structure of water, has effect, changes the whole system of the water, the whole molecule. So we are mostly water. So if your intention and your thoughts are positive, it has a positive effect on your water, on your system. So spirituality becomes science too. And we call it spirituality, but until 20, 30 years ago, spirituality was a horrible word. And maybe we have to now spiritual science, you can call it nowadays, because more and more we can show that also intention, that also, how do you say it? How? I will come up to having trust, self-trust. Having self-trust all has an effect on your body. So if you know your body, and that's why they've got self-trust, if you know your body, you know you're working by experience, then your mind, your brainwaves slow down, you are more at ease, and everything works better. So it's an interaction of your conscious mind and the physical and the mental stuff. So if you bring that all together, and the same also, food has influence because we are all interconnected. Outer and inner side is an interconnection, is in a communication of information all the way. So, but how does it work at best if your mind and body work together with the information that's coming from outside? So there is no blockage. Then these physical exercise, and that is, I think, a lot of indigenous people, or long time ago, they discovered what works best for their body, because the science was not so far at that moment, like thousands of years ago. But nowadays, and I think that's the beauty, and that's why it became widespread, especially in 2012 and after and after and after. More research is coming in that they were all right. All this indigenous stuff from experience, they knew already inside. But now we can show it with, also what you do as a professor, scientific knowledge. People here in the West are more into their minds. They know that self-knowledge. They don't have that self-knowledge so much, so it has to develop by experience. But now, because it is shown, we can show these are the effects, and this is the practical science, which shows you become better if you use the breath, if you use the cold. You feel better, you come in the flow, your brainwaves slow down, you're more at ease, stress release, etc., etc. So it's, for me, it's the new science.
And so I'm curious as to what you make of a couple of things that are happening in society at the moment. So one thing, we have a widespread, especially in young people, mental health epidemic around anxiety and low mood specifically. And across the whole of society, we have the way of helping with that is primarily pharmaceutically driven, which is mostly ineffective and also creates some harms. Yet the practice that you have are pretty much risk-free, actually get to the core of the problem in the first place. Yet medicine seems such a long way from embracing these practices. What do you make of that?
Yeah, for me, the biggest medicine is your self-healing capacity, to enhance that, to awaken that. Our system, our body is beautiful. It needs only this self-healing. It has to be awakened again. It became lazy. So we have to begin again with new habits which enhance that self-healing system. The body can heal almost everything. So that is the beauty. We can work on the surface and put medicine on the surface, but it doesn't take away the core problem. And the core problem, like in this times, for information, too many toxics are coming in. The air is not good. The water is polluted in most countries, maybe in New Zealand a little less. The food is processed and so on. So all these natural stuff, the body cannot communicate with unnatural stuff. It's a natural thing. So we have to go back to natural food, clean air, clean water, where the body can communicate in a natural way. But we put something inside and we think we can make it better. But we are more than thinking. We are a whole complex system of cells which work also independently. Every cell has its own intelligence. We have to go back to that bodily intelligence from experience. We have to go back and using the breath, using the gold to go deeper and get back to our, self-trust. You trust your own body, And the fun is, and the beauty is nowadays, if you have that self-trust, because by experience and by trying out with the cold, with the breath, you feel better, then you can show scientifically, brainwaves slow down, no anxiety, dopamine levels go up, no adrenaline goes up, and all that stuff goes up. It is shown scientifically. So what you need to do, you can talk a lot about it. Finally, you have to jump into the cold sometimes, do something first, which looks uncomfortable, and it is. But finally, when you do it more, it gives such a boost physically, mentally, and for me, then also spirituality and spiritual. That means we get back our natural communication with life itself. And that is how we came here. This is how our birth, we came here as love, as a being, feeling with all our senses. But if our senses become overloaded by over information, too much information, everybody is kind of the expert. You don't know yourself anymore. You have to get the information outside. It doesn't work because everybody says something different, and nobody knows the best except you. But you have to go inside. You have to use the breath. You have to use the cold. You have to come back in that flow, and that's what we did. That's what I did with my brother. First from feeling, and finally this feeling and this self knowledge became like shown by the science more and more and more. So he's now busy with nine different researches, and it's beautiful that he went into the science. But I must say, like 15 years ago or longer ago already, Wim was more busy with records. I was pushing him then already. You have to go the side of health. I feel it's good for the heart. I knew intuitively. That was my self confidence. I felt, okay, it has much more impact than you think. Then it's beautiful, these records, and he initiated the breath and he initiated the call. But we had long talks and we tried a lot out. And finally, he made a contact with one of these cold professors. I don't know where anymore, cold expert from the States. And then the science came in, and finally now it blew up, widespread all over the world. It becomes only more and more and more. So yeah, that's a great thing.
So what do you? We've got, I guess, the way I look at your teachings and methods, I sort of see three components. So one's the cold.
Yeah.
And I'd be keen to explore some of the, what temperature ranges we're talking about, what durations. And then we've got the breath work, but in many ways, there's two sides to the breath work, right? There's the sympathetic nervous system, hyperventilation side and the breath holds, and then there's the calming breath. Can we just sort of talk around, first of all, the cold, what sort of protocols you're thinking about, temperatures, duration, and then talk about the breathing, why there's the two sides to it and why that's so important.
Yeah, and with the cold, there's nowadays more and more research, as they say, between 4 and 10 is cold enough. You don't have to go colder. It can, but the effects don't become so much more. Between that they say around 11 minutes a week, so 4 days of 2.5 minutes or something, maybe a little more. Finally, I find, and that has like a great effect. Everything you do more, you can train more, but the effect becomes less and less and less. So 11 minutes between 4 and 10 degrees, and it's good to do it like 4 times or something. You can
it's
go
not much, is it? It's not a huge.
No,
it's not a huge dose.
No, it's a great investment, and nowadays I listened in the last half year also to, who is it, Gary Brecka. He researched a lot. Yeah. He's one of the most famous biohackers nowadays. He told, like, you lengthen only with your breath 7 years. I don't know where he gets it from, but he did 20 years of working for an insurance company. They knew, he said, because all of the medical information he had to read about his patients, they knew to almost the month when people could die. They expected, they could almost see until the month when people would die. So he put all his attention. He's also a biologist on health and biohacking. And finally now he says you can make a scan of your body. You can see which vitamins you miss, all the things you miss, and fill that up. But he uses the breath. He uses the cold. He uses also like walking with your bare feet on the ground for electromagnetic letting go. So as you know, maybe the Earth has an electromagnetic field. If you walk bare feet, your body just aligns with that electromagnetic fields, and all the electromagnetic exposure of us, with telephones and with computers, gets unloaded.
That's an astonishing thing, though, isn't it? I mean, you immediately make contact with the ground, or nature, and the viscosity of your blood and the polarity of it instantly changes and becomes more fluid.
Yeah.
I just find that an astonishing thing.
It is unbelievable. That is the beauty of our body. If it works well, and that is exactly what I say, if it is blocked, if it is too much stressed, then it doesn't get the information in, and it cannot allow the information to come in and also give the right information back. It's an ongoing of energy. And I think that is exactly what we examine and try out mostly by feeling. It begins like feeling your body, getting contact with your body again. And the research will finally always show, okay, yeah, your body works better. Your bloodstream works better. If you go into the cold, you train 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels or the muscles around the blood vessels. Your heart rate slows down. You become more resilient against all kinds of viruses and bacteria, and all that stuff is happening. And with the breath, the same. It's like they did research and they saw the whole brain lightening up during the breath holds. So new pathways, neuroplasticity, all that stuff is happening. And they can show it nowadays. So that makes it also more widespread and more widespread. Yeah, maybe I lost a little the line, but I'm just, how do you say it, so full of energy of this method that it becomes finally, after all these years, more widespread, more normal, because they can show it. The beauty of maybe I can talk about another research they did in Australia with 540 people from a big company. I think Price Watercoop something. They've got worldwide people working for them, but they did also 5 or 10 days of training. And finally, they could show they work better together, their energy level became better, stress levels enormously went down, more focus, and finally they felt more purpose, more self-assurance. So all these things are shown now more and more and more. So it's not only just physically better, people feel also mentally better. People connect better because they feel their self-trust becomes bigger. They're more at ease. And you were talking about anxiety with the breath work. This dopamine comes up and anxiety disappears. So it's all these things happen during the breath work because you change your state of mind. Your brainwaves slow down. You come in this very deep, relaxed position. And if you are there is no problem anymore. So the problem is not the anxiety, but you have to change your state of mind. And with the breath work is the remote control for me, and Wim told it also, like the remote control of your emotions. So that's why we have to practice and to learn what do you have to do when you feel anxious, what do you have to do when you feel too much stress. Slow down the breath, relax, go into the water, go back into your body. So you get out of your mind, back into your body, and then you feel sense. You feel that life makes sense again. You're back in your senses. So
it's hard to move out of that. It's hard to move out of that, right? When you immerse yourself in cold water, you immediately have to come into your body. It's just sort of it forces that in some ways.
Yeah, and that is very simple and basic, but it works. It works.
Yeah. Hey, so let's just explore the two sides of the breath, if you will indulge me.
Yeah.
Because you guys do something quite different than what a lot of other guys do. So you think about the Buteyko methods and the Patrick McEwen's and these O2 Advantage guys. They're all a bit different. And you guys will alternate quite heavily in your protocol between calming the nervous system and then agitating the nervous system with the hyperventilation. Tell us about how you come across that and why you do that and what that looks like in terms of the protocol.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking also in all these different kinds of readings, and even like to follow other people who are facilitating also breath work, because I will all want to experience it. And there are a lot of kinds of breath work, and even in pranayama, the old yoga exercises, there are 100 different kinds of breathing. But simply, as you said, you can stimulate the sympathetic or parasympathetic system. And for me, sometimes the extra stress, when you go into the cold, it's also stress for your body and for your mind. Stress is the same. Your body reacts to physical stress the same as mental stress. So if we learn to deal with stress, if it is now going into the water, like extreme cold, and you can stay in the middle and you can relax in the stress, you become resilient against stress. Stress is one of the biggest factors of all kinds of diseases in the whole society. So if we learn that, we learn and to train the body to stay at ease, and the mind to stay at ease in a difficult situation. So it's just a symbol. But now the beauty is we do it consciously. You go consciously into the water instead of unconsciously, like a situation is coming to you. You don't know how to react. Then you react out of panic. That's why it's important to do it in a safe place where everything is regulated. People are around it. People know if there's a good trainer, knows what to do and how to be with somebody and keep them at ease. So if they learn that, they know how to stay at ease in the difficult situation. So the cold is a difficult situation, but the breath work by bringing in like kind of conscious stress, and that's what happened by breathing deeply and then letting go. It's stress. It feels like stress. More and more stress comes up, but now you are conscious. And what I saw, and that is my way every time, there is always like a turning point. When I do a longer breath work between 20, 30 minutes, people are coming in a kind of extreme stress situation, mostly even the unconscious parts, which is pushed away maybe for years. And it is really, I see it time and time, every time again, it comes up. You cannot hold it. Literally, you bring in more oxygen in the body. Your body literally lightens up from inside out. So everything which is suppressed comes into the light. You feel it. That means you feel it. You can see it. More energy, you can feel it. And the moment you can feel it, and that's when I sometimes put in some positive thoughts, or you can handle it, etc., to make them aware of their power. And if I help them at that moment and push them through that difficult period, they always have a big release mentally and physically. So, and I think that is my way of dealing with the breath work. I bring them also in a difficult situation, but consciously in a safe place where they are feeling okay with whatever is coming up, that finally they've got the possibility to release the stress, if it is physical or mental. So sometimes they move their body, sometimes they have to cry, but it's beautiful because instead of keeping that in your body for 10, 20, 30 years, it can be released in one time. And it is unbelievable. It happens many, many times. But people need to feel at ease, need to feel safe. And then you can guide them through the difficult moment, which is still there. It's now the top psychiatrists say stress, PTSS, all stored in the body. But the beauty of the breath, if you bring them in that conscious stress, you can lead them through that difficult moment. And it goes beyond the mind. It is a very physical thing, but it brings physically into the light, into a feeling, what is happening in your body, what is still there. So there's always a release. And that's the way maybe people say you have to breathe through the nose. I get it. In your normal life, mostly you breathe through the nose. But becomes a regulation because the moment you release that stress, and it is easier to breathe through the mouth in a short time because you get more oxygen in. Then in a short time to have conscious stress. Then after, there's a regulation. You breathe easily through the nose. Your heart rate slows down. Your normal rhythm of breathing becomes slower. So it has, on the long term, so much more effect than... so that's the way I use it. I used also conscious affirmations. I did also a year of hypnosis, like positive suggestions, especially when they are in this difficult time. When they're going with their breath through this difficult time, I push them a little, but in a compassionate way. That's what I put extra maybe in it in the Wim Hof method, because I'm Marcel Hoff. I'm following my own way. I'm doing my own way. I have to follow my own intuition and feeling. I put something in which I see helps enormously when people are dealing with that difficult moment.
How do you think doing this in a group situation, which I often see you doing, do you think that helps as well because there's a social component to that and people can see other people going through the same emotions? Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. But there are two things that you say. It is a group. So people sometimes, if they don't know each other so well, some have their more problems with it. So you have to first create a safe place. And that's why I always before explain we are human beings. We've got emotions, we've got pain, etc. We have got divorce, death. It's all part of the human experience, the human condition. If you can lead them through that and create that safe place and safe space where we are all together, and are allowed whatever comes up, and for everybody it's something different, whatever comes up, to allow it to be there, using the breath, but also using the breath to go beyond that experience, then it happens naturally. So it can be a synergy, because you're doing a difficult and difficult, how do you say it, a difficult exercise together. But if they know we are in it together, it can be stimulating. But there are always a few people who have socially more difficulties to do it in a group. So maybe you can take them out and do it one-on-one with them. But for me, mostly I see it helps because you're all in the same energy. You go through it. It's like walking a big mountain. And at a certain moment, it becomes difficult. But if you experience all the same at the same moment, you've got this connection by doing the same thing. So, and it creates connection. And after, actually, mostly I do like if people like that, like sharing, because then they can show, okay, then you see, we've got all sometimes difficult experiences. And then they feel much more at ease, because they went through like this conscious stress. They had mostly a release, or almost everybody has a release, but some have extreme releases, like 25, 30% the first time. 25% had a beautiful experience, and the rest felt just good. But if they share after, you see all these beautiful things coming up. People are really sharing deep felt things which they didn't know sometimes anymore, or sometimes suppressed for 10 or 20 years, or had a physical release, or sometimes pain falls away, just by bringing in more energy, more oxygen. And oxygen, one of the oxygen, the more oxygen is in the body, the less disease is there. And that literally happens mentally and physically. We have to bring more oxygen into that body. We can bring things into the light. So finally, and creating the safe place where people can let go of whatever anxiety, depression, PTSS. I worked 2 years with the army also. In 1 or 2 sessions, I saw all that stress, and which they cannot talk sometimes at home, because they go through these extreme wars or whatever, and they come home and they cannot talk with their husbands, and the other way around with the wives, because of the problems in the war. They cannot deal with their emotions. But doing the breath work is a beautiful way, in a group, in a safe place, to bring up all these emotions and just bring it into the light. And then you see, if you push them a little in the right way, and you are authentic and real with them yourself, they see, oh, this is just a human being. Let's go for it. Then they go through it. And it happens every time. Simple and powerful, but you need to know how to do it.
Why have we made this so medicalized then, when these solutions exist? Does that worry? I mean, does that annoy you? I mean, there's pharmaceutical companies making billions of dollars off the exact same thing, which they have no real answer for.
Yeah, it's exactly what you say. If it becomes like a $1 billion industry, people don't really care for human beings anymore. They care for their bank account and all the things they get in from it, and maybe only for their own personal advantage. But the real care disappears. And I think that is one of the most important things. If we don't really care anymore, we lose also our connection with life itself. We are here together. We have to do it together. We have to find together solutions, and they are here already. But yeah, it's just like the Wild West. I think people, if they see what they can do without getting repercussions or whatever, they will do it. That's also the human mind and the human psyche. So it's time that there is a paradigm change, that the whole that people become more conscious about what am I doing here? Who am I? And that is one of the beauties with the breath also. You come back to a feeling of this is me. Because there you feel again with all your senses instead of all the stories. You go beyond the programming and conditioning. Yeah, and why is that? Because people are so, how do you say it? dissociated from their real being, from their real feeling alive. And that was what is happening when you go into the cold, when you do the breathing. You feel alive. You feel your energy. You feel your power again. You feel your autonomy. We are autonomous being from free will. And to get people back to that free will where you feel in charge, then you don't need outer might and power, because the power is in yourself. And then you only want to share that together with everybody. And secondary, it's beautiful to have a lot of stuff and a beautiful house and a great car and all that stuff, but there's more, in my vision, more enough for everybody. And it's time that we learn, how do you say it? Yeah, just to take care for each other. That is my opinion.
I 100% agree with what you're saying. I mean, we seem to, I really like the word you used there, which was we've become dissociated with our own humanity, both, I guess, individually you were talking about, but I suppose you also mean collectively.
Collectively also, and like you see it in countries, but it's like an identity from one country to another. It's also like a bigger identities. But yeah, if you identify, we have the possibility. I worked also with how do you say it? Focus and energy and attention. If you identify only with your little universe, me, then you see only that. But if you identify with the whole country, then you become that. But finally, we have to do it together here in the world. We have to share the water. We have to share the food. We have to share the land and make paradise here on life on earth. But not everybody sees it here on the same way. But now I think we can see health doesn't have to cost so much. We don't need to suppress all that stuff. If we are in a natural environment, so we have to make our environments physically, mentally, and spiritually natural again. And that means real compassion, really taking really care for each other, sharing and caring. And that doesn't mean everything has to be, but that there is enough to food and to have shelter. And from there we can go on. We've got the intelligence, we've got the technique, artificial intelligence is coming in. So all that stuff is coming in to make it easier if we use it in the right way. And we can. But now it's too much extremes, I think, and that doesn't work. People want to keep their power, keep their mind, despite of deaths or disease from lots and lots of people. So I think we cannot keep on going like this. So you see the whole ocean is becoming empty. They're overfishing the ocean, getting all life out. And the ocean is giving most of our oxygen. Very simple things. They're cutting too much, wood. South America, we are cutting our own part of life. We are destroying our own lives here on Earth. So it's time to wake up on these simple things. If you just look around, you know what is wrong, what is right. It's easily also to adjust, but we have to change the power and the might. And that means a natural system of health, physically and mentally, a more natural way of dealing with each other. So it's maybe a lot I say, but my focus was more on health. The moment you become physically and mentally healthy, from there, you've got the basis. From there, like possession becomes always secondary. If you're not healthy, you don't give a shit about your beautiful car and house and whatever you have, because you cannot enjoy it. So first you have to enjoy your own body, mentally, physically. And the basis for that exists already for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
There's an interesting saying that I think summarizes some of that. It says a healthy man has 1,000 dreams. A unhealthy man has just one dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just read it, I think, a few days ago. So simple is it. And we can make it difficult, and that is the mind, and everything becomes difficult. Politics become difficult. All these regulations, but it's only a distraction. Life is easy, not this easy, this ease. Life is easy, but if you feel the contact with life itself, then it is clear. But if you're not clear, you try to find it out in your head, but we don't live only from the head, we live from the whole body with all our senses. So we have to awaken these senses again. And if we do that, then you see your body flows in a natural way. And that is the science. So inner science becomes now shown by outer science, by science. And finally, I think then spirituality comes back. That means just consciousness, for me, just the communication from your body with the outside. And nowadays, the top scientists say everything is energy. Just you can feel then the vibrations and the energy and tune in an easy way. So it's all about consciousness, health, but it is quite simple if you make it simple. If you make it simple and easy and accessible. And we can. But the beauty is, again, the science now is backing up all these simple exercises, taking in more breath, taking in the right food, and shows that's the way to live. Because in another way, you don't feel fulfilled, literally.
Well, Marcel, thank you. I think the world is a much better place for having you do what you do.
Yeah.
So please keep doing it. How do people learn more about what you do? How can they get online and see?
I'm horrible. I'm doing this mostly from love. Until now, I was not associated with Wim's because his son. They have a whole protocol. I'm somebody who I'm okay with protocols, but I have to also do my own thing, just like Wim. So for son, I was not the right person in their company, but doing my own things. Next, maybe in half a year already, I'm going to do an island tour here on the island with somebody who's also working with Reiki energy, but she's also holding space. So it's practically, and Reiki is all about energy, how to create a safe place. We're going to do an island tour. Yes, he sent some info, but if people want to contact, my website is now not working. So whatever, they just can give me the message on Facebook, and it is Marcel Hoff. They can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Yep. There's a lot of little video films if they like to see on Marcel Hoff method, but don't try to contact with Marcel Hoff method. But if you want to see what I do, that is from 4 or 5 years ago. But now I'm dealing more with that conscious part. So bringing Joe Dispenza in a way, Gary Brecker, and my brother, bring that all together. I want to also bring in more science even, because just like the science my brother's doing is only making the method more accessible for more people. So I'm also looking for these collaborations. But in half a year, I'm going to do an island tour with Gina Prendergast, and she is a Reiki teacher. Maybe I have to search it up. 1 second. Yeah, that's the way I work. I'm very intuitive, but also not so super programmed.
We'll regard that as a good thing.
Yeah, I like more natural and authenticity. It's all we can bring a beautiful story outside, and it looks perfect, but finally. You have to do it. You have to bring people and not just like a visual perfect story, but it has to be real. It has to be authentic. You have to feel it. And there is a lot of science here behind it. So it's time that it is brought out more and more and more. But I want to put more my feet here in New Zealand, especially. So see where it goes. I think here it is. 1 second. Gina. No. Almost there. Yeah, they can, for me, marcelhoff.com if they want to contact with me for retreats and one-on-one or groups. And for Facebook, Gina Noetica. Gina Noetica. Instagram and YouTube is Expanding Consciousness with Gina. Expanding Consciousness.
Consciousness with Gina. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and we do what you said. What we're doing. We do an island tour, breathwork and quantum reset. Waiheke Island, Chatham Island, Great Barrier Island, Norfolk Island, and Stewart Island, plus a few.
You've gone to all the islands. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's just she came with let's do an island tour because it was from the Chatham Islands. Yeah. There was a lot of enthusiasm to do some stuff with them. So we thought let's do an island tour. I love traveling. I love New Zealand. But I love also to bring it more out in my way now, bringing all this together, like this conscious part, the physical part, and the mental part. So let's see.
All right. That's awesome, Marcel. You have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Hey, it's Grant here. Thanks for listening to the Prevention and Cure Is podcast. We don't advertise. We're never going to, but we have one request for you and one only. If you felt this show was worthwhile, can you please rate us, and please rate us 5 stars. That's it. Thanks very much.